Okay, welcome everybody to the Planning Commission meeting for April 6, 2026. Could we have a roll call, please?
Member Peterson? Member Sparks Gillis?
Here.
Member Ziegler?
Here.
Vice Chair Adler?
Here.
Chair Williams?
Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Brenda, would you lead us, please?
Yeah. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So does anybody have any questions on the agenda? They want to change anything or? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
And
Second.
second.
Moved and seconded twice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Public comment. At this point, public may come and comment on items not on the agenda or that are on the consent items. So does anybody here want to speak? No? Anybody online? No public comment. Moving on to the consent items. Any questions or concerns about the consent items?
No.
The minutes and the project list? No questions?
Actually, I don't know if it's best to do this now or when Raphael presents, but I did have one question on the planning application in progress. The,
What page?
that's page 5. Alisol and Juniper, I noticed some work on those lots, it's like prepping some things and just curious. He was talking about subdividing. I don't know if you're going to update us on that project specifically tonight or not.
Yeah, we'll discuss that during director's report.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve the consent items?
Move to approve.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Any reports on ex parte communications?
Nope.
No. On to public hearings. Could we have staff report on agenda item 5A, please?
Public hearing to consider a conditional use permit amendment and development permit for an MRI facility addition at 2050 Viborg Road, Cottage Hospital, APN 139-310-051, planning application 25-019.
All right, thank you, Maddie. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Tonight, we're going to be presenting Planning Application 25019, which is a conditional use permit, amendment and development permit for an MRI facility addition at 2050 Viborg Road for the Santa Ynez Valley Cottage Hospital. I am going to try to keep it brief. The applicant is here with a presentation as well. So the hospital site was originally approved in 1963 under conditional use permit 63 CP122 and included space for future expansion. Currently, MRI services are provided through a mobile trailer on site. The proposed project would replace that trailer with a permanent MRI facility. The project was also reviewed by the Design Review Committee on April 17th, 2025. Where feedback was provided regarding landscaping and dark sky compliant lighting. This slide shows the project location within the existing hospital campus on Viborg Road. The site's surrounded primarily by residential uses with some office uses to the west. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit amendment to allow construction of a 2,160 square foot MRI addition. The project will replace the existing mobile MRI trailer and expand on-site diagnostic services. The proposal includes minor site, utility, and landscaping improvements with no changes to existing parking. All the exterior lighting will be dark sky compliant. The project includes new landscaping designed to be drought tolerant and consistent with city requirements. New plantings will help soften building lines and break up the massing, which was requested by the DRC. There's an existing mature oak tree on site that will be preserved, will ensure that there's protective measures required during the construction. The following slides will show the proposed site plan, elevations, and architectural details, starting here with the proposed landscaping plan. The site plan shows a 2,160 square foot MRI addition integrated into the existing hospital campus. The project does not reduce existing parking and relocates MRI services from the existing trailer into a permanent building addition. And moving on to elevations, there is no increase in the building height proposed. You can see that the illustrated landscaping that'll be used to break up the massing, which was a request of the DRC. The project does use stucco cladding and earth tone colors, which is consistent with the general plan policies and maintains compatibility with the surrounding development. The project is consistent with the general plan as it expands health services at an existing hospital. It reinforces the site's institutional designation and represents a modest infill addition. The project also maintains compatibility with surrounding residential and office uses. The project also includes drought-tolerant landscaping consistent with city policies. The site is located within the Mission Design District overlay. However, those standards do not apply to public and institutional zone properties consistent with 1110A8 of the code. Instead, the project was evaluated for consistency with applicable general plan policies. The design and site layout are consistent with the existing hospital campus and surrounding development. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA under the Class 1 exemption of existing facilities. It consists of a small 1,660 square foot addition to an existing hospital, which is well below the 10,000 square foot threshold. The project relocates an existing MRI use. It does not introduce any new uses. It's located on a fully developed site with existing services. Based on these factors, the project qualifies for a Class 1 categorical exemption. And based on the analysis, the proposed project is consistent with the general plan and zoning ordinance. The site is suitable for the proposed development, and the project represents a minor expansion of an existing institutional use. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve planning application 25019, amending conditional use permit 63 CP 122 to allow construction of the MRI facility addition, with a finding that the project qualifies for a Class 1 CEQA exemption. That wraps up the staff report. I'll now turn it over to the applicant to propose the project. We can answer any questions following their presentation.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Heidi Jones with Meraki Land Use Consulting. We're grateful to be here tonight with our project team to go over this project with you. If you have our applicant presentation up for us.
Yes.
And thank you, staff, for your staff report. We can go to the next slide. Just a quick team introduction. We have Katie Gornt, she's the Vice President of San Ynez Valley Cottage Hospital. Scott Allen's Director of Cottage Health, Project Manager. Rosa Alvarado is our architect with 196. Our civil engineer is also with 196. Quinn Pullen, myself. Bob Cunningham, our landscape architect, is online via Zoom if you have any landscape-specific questions for him. And Eric Ackerman is our surveyor. As staff outlined, it's a very straightforward project for MRI addition, replacing the existing outdated trailer that's there now. And that provides a great community benefit by improving operations and conditions at the hospital, along with the minor site improvements. With that, Rosa Alvarado, architect, will walk you through the plans.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. I'm Rosa Alvarado, architect with 196 Architects. As you can see, in the blue here is what depicts the addition to the existing campus at the hospital. It's directly connected to the existing imaging suite in the hospital, And can you go to the next slide, please? This is a larger view of that. Next slide, please. Within the floor plan, as you can see, it's directly connected to the imaging suite. We have the magnet room, a control room, the ancillary necessary programmatic electrical and equipment rooms, and there are both patient and staff gender-neutral bathrooms, as well as a dressing room. It's a very small, modest addition, as was mentioned, 2,160 square feet. Next, please. As mentioned previously as well, it's simple forms, very much in keeping with what's there already. Stucco finishes, very rectilinear building. The image on the lower right is an existing condition, and the three other images are renderings of the proposed addition. So as you can see, it's very much in keeping with what's there already. The next slide is the landscaping plan, and as mentioned, Bob Cunningham is on the line if you have any specific questions. But we did respect a very beautiful oak tree that's on the property on the upper left-hand corner, as well as have added a lot of landscaping to kind of supplement what's already on this campus, and some trees. During our DRV review, we did have one comment that they wanted us to soften the edge along the right there on the plan, and so those two trees closest to the building were added. We had two comments, that as well as ensuring that the lighting was night sky proper, and it was. So I don't know if Bob wants to augment anything with the landscaping while he's on the line, if he can speak to the landscaping. I guess he doesn't want to speak. But yeah, the
He's
lands.
there.
I'm here. I was trying to unmute myself.
There you go.
I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have them. Thank you.
Okay, we'll wait till you're finished your presentation.
That pretty much was the end of the presentation. As mentioned, it's a simple addition. It accommodates the need for a permanent installation of an MRI unit that is replacing a very dated trailer that is going to be removed at the end of this project. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, clarifications before we go to public comment?
Yes, I have a question. Will patients be entering this facility from within the existing facility or from outside?
They can enter from the existing entrance to the hospital and be walked to the imaging suite area and through that imaging suite area.
So they won't be entering from outside of this new construction area?
There is an access point from the parking, and there's a walkway, and there's egress and entry at grade. If they're able to walk through the back, there's an entry point there at that location as well.
I'm asking that because I support, the dark sky lighting, but I want to ensure that a patient can safely get into the facility. Is there adequate lighting for them to be able to see the sidewalk to get in?
Yes, that has been
Thank you.
accommodated. Mhm.
Thank you.
Main entrance, okay. There is an exit there, and they can exit that way, but they should enter through the main entrance because they do have to check in through the main entrance.
Right,
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
okay. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no questions, we'll take it to public comment. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this or ask some questions? No? Anybody online? I don't see anybody there either. Okay, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Any discussion?
I can't imagine why we wouldn't approve a project like this.
I would say it's a welcome addition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having been in that trailer several times, it's a very welcome addition.
Yeah, me too.
And I should add that I just thought the landscaping was really thoughtful, and preserving that tree was something that was really noted. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Okay, any other questions? No, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Why don't you read what you're approving?
I guess I better, huh?
Yeah.
Let's see here. Get it up here. To approve conditional use amendment and development permit for MRI facility addition at 2050 Viborg Road, Cottage Hospital, APN 139310051, PA 25-019.
And I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Could we have,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Moving on to item 5B, could we have the staff report, please?
Public hearing to consider conditional use permit and development permit for the conversion of a second floor office space to 3 residential units and approval of an in lieu parking fee at 1697 Copenhagen Drive, APN 139182021.
All right, the next item is planning application 25042, being a request for a conditional use permit and development permit for mixed-use project located at 1697 Copenhagen Drive. The project site is located in the downtown village area at 1697 Copenhagen Drive. It's zoned village mixed use within the village design district overlay. The site is developed with an existing 2-story commercial building, and the ground floor contains a retail commercial spaces. Second floor is currently consisting of office suites. The property is fully developed, does not contain any on-site parking, which is pretty typical for properties in the area. And this slide shows you the project location and surrounding VMU zoning. The site is surrounded by existing general retail and other restaurants. The proposed project involves converting the existing second floor office space into residential use. A total of 3 units are proposed, consisting of 2 studio units and 1 accessory dwelling unit. The project establishes a mixed-use building with commercial uses on the ground floor and residential units above. No expansion of the building footprint is proposed, and only minor exterior changes are included. The applicant is also requesting approval to satisfy the parking requirement through payment of an in lieu parking fee. The project requires 2 parking spaces based on 1 space per studio unit. The accessory dwelling unit does not require parking. No on-site parking is provided as the site is fully developed. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow payment of the city's in lieu parking fee due to site constraints and the downtown location. This slide shows you the proposed site plan and second floor layout. The project reuses the existing building footprint and reconfigures the second floor for residential use. The applicant is not proposing changes to site circulation or access. And these elevations show the existing and proposed conditions. The project does include minor exterior modifications, which includes new doors and side lights. There's no alteration to the building's actual height, massing, or overall architectural character. The project is consistent with the general plan. It supports mixed use and infill development in the village area by introducing housing within an existing building. The project maintains compatibility with surrounding development and preserves the existing building character. The request to utilize the in lieu parking fee is also consistent with the city's mobility policies, which support the alternative parking strategies and shared parking resources in the downtown area. The project is consistent with the village design district overlay and BMU zoning. It maintains the existing Old World Danish architectural character with no changes to building height, footprint, or massing. Exterior improvements are minimal, include like-for-like paint touch-ups and minor facade updates. It also meets the intent of the VMU zoning district by maintaining ground floor commercial uses and introducing residential units above. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA under the Class 1 exemption for existing facilities. The project involves the reuse of an existing building with no expansion of floor area, only minor exterior modifications. The site is fully developed and served by existing infrastructure. And based on the analysis, the proposed project is consistent with the general plan and zoning ordinance. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve planning application 25042 for conditional use permit and development permit to allow the residential conversion and in lieu parking request, with a finding that the project is categorically exempt under CEQA. That concludes my presentation, and the applicant is here if you guys have any questions.
Okay, do you have any questions before we go to public comment?
I had one very brief question, excuse me if I missed this within here, but for the on-site facilities, page 29, it says trash, the existing businesses are responsible for removal of their own waste. There's no trash pickup service directly to the site due to it being developed without facilities. So what is the plan for the residents to dispose of their trash?
Hi, my name is Ed St. George. I'm the applicant. It's just going to be as it's been for years without the businesses as well. They just take their trash. Currently, right now, everybody's using the trash over at Founders on the corner, but that's the way we bought the building, and there's really no space to put trash. So,
And we do have a condition that the residents will be maintaining their trash
That they will what?
in the building, that they're going to be maintaining the trash in the building.
Oh,
It's
okay.
part of the conditions.
Oh, okay, great.
Any other?
I saw a pretty extensive parking study was done, and you obviously feel confident that your tenants will find parking spaces and be comfortable walking. I mean, it's kind of your deal, you know, they'll use it or they won't, but you feel pretty good about that.
what our hope is actually is that our tenants won't have cars. But yeah, if they do have cars, they're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the hope, is that hopefully they work downtown or they're retired. I mean, that's the idea. So, yeah. I mean,
Love seeing residential over commercial spaces. Love seeing that. So thank you
yeah,
for
it was
doing
a lot
it.
better. It used to be a yarn shop or something up there. Anybody buys yarn anymore? But I know Lisa does, now that she's got a family going.
Don't tell my wife that.
Okay. Okay, with that, we'll take it to public comment. Does anybody here like to speak on this matter? Apparently not. Anybody online? No, nobody online. So we'll close public comment and bring it back for discussion and action. Any other detailed questions this time? No, apparently not. I have one. How will this impact our arena numbers?
I can answer that question for you. It actually adds to our arena numbers. It's not, the next item shows last year's reporting, but it'll be a part of the 2026 reporting for 3 additional units. And as mentioned by Lisa earlier in the presentation, it's consistent with our general plan of infill development. So all 3 units will be accounted for and add to our existing arena numbers.
Okay, good. And I just comment, this is something we were looking to have happen when we revised the general plan, so.
Yes, it was, as mentioned in previous sort of general plan, annual reports, that our general plan had always called for infill development. However, our zoning ordinance didn't really align to that. That has now been amended, and projects like this can move forward. And this project would have moved forward without an entitlement had parking been provided on the site, because it's originally 2 units plus an ADU, and that's under our threshold for what we called by right development.
Okay, and just one more question for staff. I'm just curious why there's no reference to the housing element in the general plan. You go through various sections of the general plan, but there was no mention of the housing element. I was wondering why.
So that the overall findings include the general plan, whereas the housing element, those policies really are pertaining to reduction of housing barriers. And so while it's acknowledgement of RENA, the housing element policies themselves are really focused more so on how the city can reduce the barriers to entry to produce more housing. So ergo, we've made a massive change into our village mixed use, and now you have 3 new units that are coming before you that previously may not have happened under the new ordinance. So we've reduced the barriers, and here you are.
Right, but in the general plan, as I read it, on the housing element, there were certain goals that we had to meet along the way between now and 2035, whenever. How does this play into any of those?
So because this project was an entitlement and it's not a part of a building permit, the building permit was actually submitted this year. So you'll see those numbers start to reflect in next year's. Because again, the stop date for information was December 31st. So while this was an entitlement, you'll see in the next item, this project appears under the entitlement. There is no building permits. So under next year's report, you'll start seeing some of those numbers, especially those infill numbers. I believe the target was 12 units to be created in infill. That'll actually now go down to 9 because we're doing the things that we need to do.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that we were taking credit for what this developer is doing.
Very much so, Randy, and myself and the city manager are very cognizant of taking the credit where we can take it.
Okay, any other questions? Concerns? Could I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve conditional use permit and development permit for the conversion of second-floor office space to 3 residential units and approval of an in-lieu parking fee at 1697 Copenhagen Drive, APN 139-182-021.
Thank you.
Second that?
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nobody opposed. Passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to discussion items. Item 6A.
Receive and file the 2025 Annual General Plan and Housing Element Progress Report.
Speaking of progress reports, so this is our annual check-in of where we're at with our annual general plan and housing element. So we do this every year. So this is for the year beginning on January 1st, 2025 and ending December 31st. So some of the major highlights that are in our report is that we did amend our general plan for the fire severity and local hazard mitigation. This was required by state law. We also had a notice from the state in regards to our safety element not being in line to receive potential funding should a disaster occur. So we made a change of our local hazard mitigation plan. It's a very slight change. We did adopt the 2025 California Building Code. That's what CBC stands for. So far in our regional housing needs assessment for our reporting period, we have 32 units that have been created. And of that, 106 units are what we consider in the entitlement phase. And as a caveat to that, again, as I had mentioned earlier, the reporting ends on December 31st. So as of last week, that number has now jumped to 194 units in the entitlement phase. However, we are expecting that number to decrease, which I'll touch on in another slide. We were extremely busy this year. Our entitlement applications actually increased to 67 total. Many of them were sign applications and temporary use permits. Our building permits were 215, which actually remained the same, so there was no year-over-year change. However, this year it's already increased volumes comparative to last year, so we are already outpacing in quarter 1 what we did last year. And Madison does the building end, so she's getting the brunt of that, unfortunately. So again, as I mentioned, there's sort of 2 sections to our reporting. The first one is the general plan, and it contains goals and policies. The general plan is a policy document and a vision for growth and development, and zoning regulations, development agreements, capital improvement plans, projects, et cetera. All that go to implement the general plan, and our job is to review it and monitor and make adjustments as needed. So a good example of adjustments as needed was the fire severity zones. That was something that the state required us to do. We'll actually need to amend our general plan actually in the next 2 years for 2 additional items that need to be accounted for. 2 of them being safety element items for extreme heat events, and the other one is a transportation-related item to discuss transportation corridors. Although we don't have like warehousing, and that's mainly a law that affects the Inland Empire and the Bay Area and the Valley. We don't have that, so we have a little bit more time, but we will need to address that as we move along. And of course, the state of California, the legislature, which is currently under their new legislative year, has more up their sleeves to require the city to do more and more. And so a couple of them are potential amendments to the general plan. Myself and our city manager, Randy, we work with the California League of Cities to write letters and also help to shape that agenda. I sit on the legislative review team for the California League of Cities, which is a great sort of tool for us to see what's coming up in the future and also help to fight those unfunded mandates. The general plan sort of progress report is color coded for you. The items that are in green are completed, items that we've tasked out, and you do see a good bit of green in there. And again, that's based on last year's sort of, or 2 years, a year and a half work effort. The items in yellow are currently ongoing or items we are currently working on. And the items in red are flagged that are things that haven't started, and there are reason and rationales for them not starting yet, but it is on our forefront. And a couple of them have to do with sort of capital improvement project and planning, and that's something that we are in the next set of city council goals are hoping to get done. And so we are moving forward with that. The other big portion of the annual housing report has to deal with our housing production numbers. So again, here's a screenshot of what we need to produce. So it's a goal, it's a target. And again, city's not building these units. We rely on developers such as the last applicant to construct these units. We just have to accommodate them. And so again, our goal is 191 units spread across these categories. The extremely and very low and low are typically the hardest ones to meet. Those are typically, you're going to get those through state density bonus projects, deed restricted housing, and or projects that are partnerships with a municipality and a nonprofit. So those are really the harder ones to get. That's really what HCD is looking for. Moderate and above moderate, not so hard. But again, those are easier to come by, but we still track. And so again, we have 32 units so far that have been issued housing permits, and that's how the state tracks those. A majority of them are coming from ADUs. So this year, you'll actually do see a change in our percentages of extremely low, very low, and low as we're actually producing them. And we're actually, based on a presentation that was done by SB CAG back in early fall, we've elected to use what's called the ABAG method, or the Association for Bay Area Government's methodology for accounting ADUs based on size. And so utilizing their methodologies and knowing that the rents are somewhat similar based on the size and a percentage of our housing element that is dedicated ADUs, we're now beginning to take credit for based on size and percentages. So here, these aren't deed restricted houses, but again, based on size, we have a couple very low, a low, and a moderate. And those very lows are based on, I think one was a junior ADU at 300 square feet. Another one was another ADU at 400 square feet. So our smallest ones flipped into those categories. But again, we're using that ABAG methodology. ABAG is currently updating that methodology. And as they update, we'll basically utilize that update and continue to move forward to take credit for these units based on sort of similar economies of rent and or income.
And sorry to interrupt, Raphael, but so you mentioned that was based on square footage. Is there anything in the methodology that verifies what rent's actually being charged and then cross-correlates that back?
So SB CAG has completed a year-long study of rent analysis. And again, it was a study, they reached out to various ADU homeowners and asking for what their rental rates were, but it was yet a comprehensive study. Other counties like SLO County, SLOCOG, they actually have a full-blown rental study that's completed to which the municipalities then utilize to take the credit based on square footage. SB CAG is working on that. So our hope is to have both in place so that we can then really trump on this affordability by design moniker, which a lot of our smaller municipalities like us are utilizing.
Thank you.
And so, as mentioned, the state has sort of these two tiers. One of them is housing units produced based on permits issued. The other is housing units in production in the entitlements cycle. And actually, these are the same table, but they're from 2 different years. The top one is last year, and take note of 670 Alamo Pintado. That was 32 units. That was originally entitled back in 2022. The project applicant has essentially exhausted their, they were about to exhaust their time extensions. And instead, the applicant is retooling and revising the project to pencil a little bit better. They had an underground parking facility, and they kind of realized that the underground parking facility just economically doesn't work. So they will be coming back into the fold sometime in the next year for a new revised project. So that's sort of off the board now. So again, you have 106 units. The Alamo Pintado Apartments, which is technically Wildwood, that's got the little asterisk to it of why our numbers might decrease in terms of what's in the pipeline, simply because we, as many of you know, we have a pause in that project right now. And the applicant is working with the neighbors to work on an agreement. And so they may lower that number based on the agreement. We don't know. But it appears that it's on track to have some sort of revision to that project with a lower number. And again, Frederick Square adaptive reuse, that is currently in staff review. It looks like we're ready to almost deem that project complete. Hopefully that'll be before you in either May or June, depending on when our last department finishes their review. But again, that's in our pipeline. And the new one, and I'll touch on it on the next slide. So these are what we are currently processing in sort of our hopper, is the Alamo Pintado, Wildwood, as mentioned earlier. Alisol Cellars, that is Lisa's project. We met with the applicant a few weeks back. We're hoping that they come back quickly and get that entitled. I know that's not a housing project. The First Street tentative parcel map, it's actually a condo conversion. It was 3 previously approved housing units that are now occupied, and they now have elected to subdivide it. So that's a very tricky one. The Alisol Guest Ranch, it's another project that Lisa is managing, has resubmitted this morning. And so it looks like they're all there for hopefully we can deem that complete, and that'll hopefully come before you, before Lisa goes away, just so we can get that done. But again, there are some tricky issues that we have to navigate first. The Frederick Square adaptive reuse, as I mentioned, that's very similar to the project that came before you this evening, except it's 6 units, not 3. And they actually already have a shared parking agreement, but they were required to look at their parking numbers as well. And so we're excited to get that moving. The last one I did want to drop is what's called the Alisol Glen Apartments. So this is what's on Site D. As you had mentioned earlier, there had been substantial amount of preliminary sort of surveying and testing of soils and a lot of preliminary information that was gathered. The applicant has formally, as of Friday, submitted for what's called an SB 330 pre-application review. There is a difference between a SB 330 builder's remedy application and a preliminary review. So what that means is that we as city staff have to go through the project application, go through our checklists, go through our code, and really give them a rubric of what needs to get done. And then from there, they have 180 days to turn around and submit something in. So it's not a builder's remedy, but they are requesting a state density bonus, a total of 88 units. There is 15% to be dedicated to very low income housing on that project site. But again, it's in a pre-application review. We just launched the website under the current project list this afternoon. We have an interest list now ready to go on that project as well. Again, trying to be fully transparent to the neighbors of that project as well as residents of the city and the valley. So we have our application up, their preliminary drawings are up, et cetera, and we're now going through our 30-day review, and that includes Public Works, utilities, and the fire department to give everything that we need and everything that they're requesting as a part of their pre-application review.
Raphael, very quickly, how many stories will those be?
That one is proposed to be 3 stories. Yeah. So, again, we're busy. There's a lot going on. And as you can see, the changes between the general plan and the zoning ordinance have, at least from a housing production side, really stepped up. From the zoning perspective, we are getting applications for, if you noticed in the projects list, there are quite a few tentative improvements that are going in, and those are all changes of the zoning code that has really allowed project applicants to move forward with new businesses without going through the cumbersome entitlement process that we used to go through. So a lot of positive changes, but at the same token, a lot of work ahead of us. So with that, I'll open up to questions from the commission.
Any questions?
I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask this, but I'm just curious. This was before my time, but Site D was actually rezoned from parks to residential. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So that move was undertaken in order to try to accommodate more housing under the housing element, or could you walk me through the history of that a little bit?
Yeah, so that was during the housing element as well as the general plan, the city had to select vacant sites to rezone to meet the regional housing needs assessment, the 191 units, and as well as the overspill. There's that little caveat. So sites B, C, and D were all rezoned. Site C is Wildwood. Site B is currently for sale. Still, is that for sale? Yeah. And then Site D is this. And so, and there was a preliminary number of units that it was supposed to hit. 56, I believe, was the number. Clearly, they've gone beyond that. So that is the impetus of the rezone, and that's why it's there.
And did I read that they're requesting a lot split there? Why is that?
So again, I don't want to get into that since we're not discussing that item. This is more the general plan, but it is for just semantics very quickly. It is it's actually a subdivision because it's remnant. It's actually still connected to the golf course. I'll leave it at that.
Just to follow up on that, so when it was zoned Parks and Rec, was that somehow attached to the golf course? Or I'm kind of curious. I know it's owned by the LSL.
Zoning doesn't necessarily need to follow legal lot lines or APN lines, just an FYI. It's generally good practice that it does. And in this instance, it follows the APN. But as I talk to many of our staff constantly and residents, APN does not make a legal lot.
Okay.
Okay. And I've gotten several questions from people that live down there about what's going on. I didn't answer them because I didn't know.
We didn't know till Friday. So, but now, like I said, there is a portal on our website. If someone's interested, refer them to that.
But the rumor mill down there is hard at work, that it's going to be all low-income housing, and so we should anticipate that there'll be a lot of questions, concerns from the community.
Correct, which is again why we're trying to be fully transparent with these projects that are in our pipeline, particularly these larger projects. So it is taking a page out of Wildwood, where we have the application, we've posted online, we're posting all the elevations, all of what we receive is we're just being transparent and putting it out there. It has a smaller Q&A section. It has a project tracking section. And then again, there's a form that if someone wants to sign up for email updates, and we'll run very similar to what we did Wildwood when we deem something or a letter gets sent out from our end as a formal correspondence, we will let those subscribers know that something is posted to our website.
Thank you. And also, so SB 330 under the builder's remedy essentially bypasses a number of the city's abilities to control the project. So you mentioned that this is SB 330 but not builder's remedy. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, SB 330, and Taylor, if I if I mess this up, let me know. SB 330 is a pretty big chunk of legislation, and so builder's remedy is one portion of it. The other having to do with what's called pre-application and conference. And so really what it is they submit, and the city has to go through its checklist and its code and identify things that the applicant needs to do in order to bring in a completed application and vest that project based on the rules and regs that it was submitted as pre-app, not when it's deemed complete. So if the city were to update its fees for development impacts during that time, they'd be paying what's on the pre-app, not later in time. So it's really a tool for a developer to vest the rules and the fees based on the pre-application timeline. The other big difference is on the builder's remedy. Obviously, they can do what they want. In this instance, they have to abide by what's in our zoning ordinance unless they're requesting an exception. And in this instance, the request is a height exception through the zoning or through the state density bonus. And again, we would get into the nuances later. Did I miss something?
I can't, I can unmute my mic now. Thank you. No, that's everything I was going to say as well. Agree with all of that. And then we'll, again, have more detail as the project comes down the pipeline. And we'll be able to discuss that in more detail. But yes, that's SB 330, I think, as it's generally referred to in a planning way, is going to refer to the pre-application process, even though it encompasses technically a lot more. And then builder's remedy is a way to, when your housing element hasn't yet received compliance by HCD, to bypass certain city zoning requirements and standards. So that's the main differentiation between the two.
Thank you.
Just one more question. I'm likely to get more questions from people down there. Can I refer them to the website? Is there
yes.
something on the website that they can go to and get the details?
Yes, it's under the current projects list drop down on our website under LSL Glen Way apartments.
Good. Any other questions, concerns, issues? I don't think we need to vote on anything here. This was just information, correct?
All right. Well, it was a receive and file, so it is for your information. We will, again, take the very similar report to the City Council in their next City Council meeting. We are a little tardy. These were due April 1st, but state's going to be okay with that.
I do want to say, although we're not taking an action because this is on the agenda, we should have opened it up for public comment.
Okay. At that suggestion, we will open to public comment. Randy, would you like to speak?
Yeah, Randy
on this?
Murphy, I just wanted to comment on Brandon's concern, or somebody raised a concern, I guess it was you, Jack, about the neighbors complaining.
Mm-hmm.
There's often a misconception about affordable housing, and they assume that it's Section 8 housing, and that's not always the case. So I think I've talked to folks at the county and whatever, start getting information out there about the fact that it's affordable means ideally that some of the teachers and firefighters and policemen can afford a place to live here in town. It doesn't mean that it's somebody that's on a government subsidy of some sort. So this is an important distinction.
That's a very important distinction. Yeah, thanks, Randy.
Yes, thank you. Nobody else here and nobody online. So we will close public comment. And any comments from planning commissioners on anything, concerns, issues?
Just as far as reporting, you're saying? Is that your question?
Yeah, just comments on.
On the presentation, none.
No, I was talking on, in general, do you have any?
Sure. In general,
comments?
Brandon and I attended the Urban Boundary Exploration Committee. We were a part of that, and we had a great presentation by Raphael on April the 2nd, where he covered planning boundaries, kind of planning boundaries 101. The next meeting will be on April the 23rd, where LAFCO, I believe, will present, and we'll learn about what their role is in establishing boundaries in communities and so forth. And the public is invited to observe these meetings. So the next one is on April 23rd. That's all I have.
Just a quick question. You say public's invited to observe. Can they comment as well or just observe?
It's an observation. So again, it's meant to have the committee engage with the speakers at each meeting. So I mean, if they're welcome to attend and welcome to listen in, but the questions are geared more for the committee members.
Okay, just clarification for me. Anything else? Any more comments?
Took the wind out of my sails on my director's report.
It was just a little one.
Yeah, we did have a UBEC committee meeting. It was our first kickoff meeting, and as mentioned, we do have next one on the 23rd, I believe. And then we hopefully we may have an item for the May PC, which it would be the Fredericks Square adaptive reuse, but if not, then again, that will go to June. We do have a DRC meeting for the first time in a few months, so we have items on that aspect. And again, we talked at length of the Alisol Glen Way apartments, and we just continue to be busy with other things as they go along into the application process. So stuff still coming through.
And sorry to interrupt on this, but is there any update on the design review handbook?
Yeah, so that is something that was delayed a little bit. We are a smaller staff, so I will take the full blame on that. But I spoke with Lisa this morning, and we're going to get the internal red lines back out and get another production cut, and then with that cut, hopefully take it to DRC and start going back to what it needs to be. The sign ordinance is another one that has sort of fallen a little behind schedule based on trying to put together the UBEC and other larger projects that have come into the fold. Like the Alisol barn, event barn may seem small, but it's actually not. There's been a lot more environmental questions that we've had to ask ourselves and internally. So these smaller projects have actually turned into a little bit larger projects as we go through the state, laws and regs that we have. But our hope is to have the signed ordinance come to you in June for a recommendation out to the city council for July. Because the work is completed. I know Taylor and her team has completed all the work. Now it's just sitting, waiting for me to translate a couple things into a little bit more easier to read fashion.
Great. I think those are eagerly awaited. Yeah.
I have one more question for you. On the building over here that had the fire that's basically destroyed, I've been getting a lot of questions on, is anything happening with that, or is it just going to sit there for a while?
Yeah, and we were hoping it would just sit and the dust would do its thing, but the reality is no. There is movement. Myself and Randy have been in discussions with the applicant for quite some time. There is an issue with insurance and other things, so we are beginning to hear the community and hear the council and y'all in the commission, and we're beginning to ramp up the pressure to get something going to clean the site up and at least clean up the debris and move on. But again, the insurance has been the biggest issue with the applicant. Insurance is a tricky thing, particularly after a fire, and so I'll leave it there.
Okay.
And yeah, one other thing actually that reminded me of was 425th Street. It looked like there was actually some activity, and you've noted here that undergrounding has started.
Yeah, it was actually supposed to start last week. They came in Monday, and they had the big gigantic pole because I saw it on the freeway, and I asked myself, I think that's coming to town. And so but they had a miscommunication with closing off parking, but they were very much on it today and tomorrow. So that yes, that they are beginning to raise the pole, bring it down, and the applicant is chomping at the bit to restart and get that finished off, and hopefully that'll be a quick work and to be completed by end of summer.
Great.
Raphael, any update on Ed's Hobbit Village?
We have no update, no comment.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another one that comes up frequently, as you might expect. Anything else? Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting at 6:55.